Is anybody in there? Yo, check out my Rugrats sweatshirt. Isn't this sick? I love it. I'm a big color block fan. Do you like my setup? I like it a lot. I think it looks cute. Hey there, I know it's been a while. I haven't been nearly as active as I would like to be on my channel for a while, but it's for a good reason. I have been hard at work on myself and making changes in my life that were long overdue. For one, I beat my eating disorder. I've never really talked about this on my channel. I have talked about it on Twitter a bit and on Instagram a bit, but basically from the time I started this channel until last year, I was struggling pretty bad with not eating enough, and you can kind of tell if you watch my videos through the years. Like, you can see it in my face. I didn't show my body for a while, so that's kind of a clue, but I was struggling big time. I was not nourishing my body the way that it needed to be nourished, and something really bad happened in January that I'm not going to talk about in this video. It kind of just like shocked me to the point where I started reconsidering a lot of things about my life. And one of those was the way that I treat my body and the fact that I should just start now. So I was having a binge eating problem, you know, the last like year or two. Before that, I was having a restricting problem, and now I have neither of those things. Now I am cooking healthy vegan food every day at home. I am enjoying that process. I am eating until I'm full. My body is much stronger for that. That's been a huge win. I mean, every femoid on the planet at this point who goes on the internet is getting, you know, this horrible messaging about how our bodies should look, how we should behave, the lengths that we should go to make our bodies look a certain way, the messaging that certain food is bad and certain food is good, and it's really hard to get out of that loop. So that's been a huge win for me lately. It might sound weird, but it's taken up a lot of my time. Something else that I started doing was working out, which is something that I loved doing when I was in college, but that was like, I don't know, like 8 years ago. So it's been a while since I was somebody who worked out regularly, and part of healing my relationship with my body has been working out to be strong, not to necessarily change the way that it looks. When I was dealing with all of those restricting problems a few years ago, my wrists just stopped working. They got really weak, and it never really had gotten better. At some point, I was wearing a brace that went through over my whole wrist for like a while, and I couldn't really like lift things. Moving houses was like really hard because of this. Yeah, and like just my whole body in general was weak. Like, I had no core strength. And so for the last like 6 to 8 weeks, I would say at least 3 to 4 times a week now, I am working out in the morning or after work. I can already feel so much more strength in my body. I can bring in heavy packages or groceries, no problem. I can move stuff around. I'm just generally stronger. And the effect that this has had on my mental health has been so positive. And I'm not paying attention to numbers anymore. I'm paying attention to how I feel and whether or not my pants fit me. And they fit me now. So that's been really nice. I used to talk pretty candidly about, you know, my personal struggles and what was going on in my life when I had like 1,000 subscribers, because it kind of felt like I was just shouting into the void. But now I kind of know that like a certain number of people will watch the things that I put out, so I'm a bit more protective of my personal life. But I just wanted you guys to know that the reason that I've been gone is not because I'm a lazy piece of shit. It's because I have been taking time to work on myself, take care of myself, foster better mental health, physical health, emotional health. And I am in a genuinely better place now. I'm more confident, I'm happier, and I think soon I will be ready to start making essays and all that stuff again. I also have been making a lot of music. I got Logic Pro a few months ago. I have been learning production. I'm having the best time ever. I finished a song for my next album that's gonna be all original stuff. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I feel like I'm like genuinely happy for the first time in my life, and that is weird and novel and new to me. So I just wanted you guys to know that before we go forward. And my channel's sitting at 13K now, which is not a number I thought that I would ever get to be honest. Like, I thought maybe it would just cap out at 5K and I'd be cool with that, and I'm done. But it keeps growing, so thank you so much. I will never stop being in disbelief of the fact that people give a shit about what I'm doing. I really appreciate it. It has healed me in more ways than I could ever state. And now for the second part of this video. It's Pride Month, obviously, and I'm queer, obviously, and I collected some questions on my community tab. It's been literal years since I made a video specifically about being queer rather than just mentioning it in videos about other things, so I thought that this would be a fun way to celebrate Pride, even though it's almost over now, but it's fine. I have the questions on my phone. I typically try not to, like, stare at screens as much as I can when I'm delivering scripts and stuff like that, but this is a little bit more off the cuff. My answers are not written down, so I will... honestly, this is weird. Like, I don't usually do videos that are completely unscripted like this, but all I had for this one was an outline, so you get to witness a little bit more of the raw chaos that comes out of my self when I do things, rather than the very planned and scripted version that comes out in my essays. So someone asked a question about what it's like being non-binary while also presenting in a way that aligns with the gender you were assigned at birth. And that is a thing that I do. So yes, I know that a lot of people, as a result of me dressing and presenting with the look that I was naturally born with, will not perceive me as non-binary. And at this point, I kind of have the perception, it sounds silly, but you know the song Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls? And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. Kind of cheesy and, like, you know, an overplayed hit or whatever, but those lyrics really resonate with me because at this point I don't necessarily need the entire world to look at me and immediately know that's a non-binary person. I just need the people in my life to understand that I do not identify with gender in the typical way that people would expect of me. I do not identify as a woman. I do not identify as a man. I just am a person who does not ascribe to the typical set of behaviors of, you know, the gender that is expected of me. And over the years, I've identified as genderfluid. Non-binary is obviously kind of an umbrella term. At this point, I kind of think agender makes the most sense for me, as in, like, I literally just don't want to apply this concept to my life. There are days where I feel inclined to dress in a way that presents more feminine or more masculine, but to me at this point, that's just clothes. That's just styling, and I don't particularly associate them with a gender anymore. I don't know, I think that's maybe like a perspective that's not as common. I don't want to offend people, but like a lot of people who are gender nonconforming still cling to one end of the spectrum or another, or ask themselves every day, how non-binary, how androgynous, how masculine, or how feminine am I today? And I did that for a really long time, and it was kind of torturing myself to just be like, you know, am I non-binary enough today? Am I queer looking enough today? When there's no way to look queer, there's no way to look non-binary. If you are, then you are. So that's kind of my philosophy on it at this point in my life. It would be nice if more people could look at me and just understand that is a non-binary person sitting in front of me. It would be nice if I didn't have to correct people on my pronouns all the time. But like, what am I gonna do? I don't particularly think that there is a way to make that happen. You know, there's like the certain stereotype of like maybe wearing like a binder and a colored shirt and like having a blue undercut or whatever. But like, you know, that's, other than like the blue hair, that's just a lot of masculine traits on an AFAB person. And that's the way that people typically think that a non-binary person looks. So I think that just presenting as I am and being non-binary and not going out of my way to change my appearance so that other people will understand who I am better is kind of an act of radical self-acceptance. Editing geeks here. Something that I did not really get into in this video is dysphoria, which honestly people just didn't really ask questions, so I didn't talk about it too much. I do experience dysphoria in terms of the sex characteristics that I was born with, in terms of the body that I was born with, but I have mostly come to peace with that. I do not have an interest in altering my body because I ultimately do not believe that my body relates to my gender anymore. I hope that makes sense. Ultimately, outside of surgery to change those things, obviously if you feel you need that, I just think that people should dress in a way that flatters their bodies and kind of leave it at that, rather than agonizing every single day over whether or not they look masculine, feminine, non-binary enough. And that's how I feel about it after having agonized over this stuff for like 8 years. And I hope that doesn't upset anyone. I'm really not trying to upset anyone. The second part of the question was really just a video going over your individual journey with queerness, and I think that kind of touched on that. So I hope that answers your question. I've spent like 8.5, 9 years thinking about this at this point, and you know, presenting as I do now, which can vary from day to day, is where I've sat with it. My friends know what I am. My friends use they them for me. My friends understand that I would like to be one of the boys sometimes, and I would also like to be one of the girls sometimes. Would love to hear about how you discovered your queer identity and your experiences in the intersections as a non-binary person of color. Discovered is an interesting word because it's always been evident to me, even as a kid. I looked in a mirror and I like pulled my hair out of my face and I was like, why was I born as a girl? And I think I started doing that when I was maybe like 4 or 5, you know, just started like really having those thoughts of like challenging the gender roles that were being applied to me even as a child. And as I got older, I kind of like pushed it down a little bit just because the area I was in was like a very cis white area, and there's a lot of like Catholics in the area I'm from, so there was a fair amount of like homophobia, a strong amount of transphobia. So I was like, oh sure, I'm a straight girl, sure, whatever, I'll just keep these thoughts about gender to myself. Doesn't everyone have these? Isn't this normal? And then I went to college, which I feel like is kind of where a lot of people finally have the chance to discover themselves for realsies, away from their family environment, you know, kind of just a new space. And honestly, I remember being on Tumblr and I read a post about being non-binary and what non-binaryism is. And I was shocked because for the first time in my life, I felt like I had found language to talk about the way that I feel about myself and the way that I identify. So yeah, it wasn't so much discovery, it was just like always knowing this. And then finally at 19 years old, finding the language to talk about it and communicate it. I came out very slowly, first to my partner, then to a few of my friends, then to my sister, and then I think by like 2015, when I met new people, I would tell them that I was non-binary and would talk to them about my understanding of gender as it evolved. And I started using they, them pronouns in the last couple years, because like honestly I didn't think people would use them. I felt like they would make fun of me, but in the last few years it's become more normal, so that is what I use now at work, everywhere I go, on the internet, and it doesn't always work. I get misgendered a bit, but like as an agender person it doesn't affect me that much because I don't care. I don't know. Like, people will like profusely apologize to me if they use the wrong set of pronouns and then correct themselves instantly. And I'm like, it's fine. You corrected yourself, and you know, like whatever. It just bounces off me at this point. Yeah, I'm just ranting. As a non-binary person of color, that is interesting. A lot of people think of a non-binary person as like a white, skinny AFAB in a dress shirt. So I am not that. You know, I'm Indian. I have pale skin, but I'm Indian. And my family on the white side and the Indian side are not the most progressive people. So honestly, I'm not out to anyone but like my parents and my siblings in terms of my family. Like other family members may have seen it through my internet presence, but I've never talked to them about it, and I don't really have an interest in talking to them about it. I've seen my family make queerphobic jokes before, and I just don't think that it would go over well. So I don't want to breach that conversation. My sister is really the only one who's like gung-ho for me, will like correct my pronouns and stuff. My dad is trying to be better about it, which I appreciate. Kind of conservative Indian people, they're just like, you know, genuinely from a different time and place. So it's not really something that I want to breach with them because I know that it won't be received well. And it would be nice if I could talk to my family about being queer. I would really appreciate that. At this point in my life, I'm 27 years old. I have other people other than my birth family around me who love and accept me, and I have embraced my found family for that aspect of my life. What gives me gender euphoria? Looking nice. I have this one specific short sleeve dress shirt that is green and blue with flowers all over it, and it reminds me of my favorite Animal Collective album, Merriweather Post Pavilion, and I just feel really good when I wear it. I also like certain hairstyles, or like a fresh haircut also gives me gender euphoria. It's half up right now, but the hair I have right now is like much shorter in the back and longer in the front, and I think that has been really nice because I can kind of do like an Aaron Yeager thing and like pull back the front of my hair and have it look a bit more short and like traditionally masculine with like a man bun, or I can leave it down and have it give more of like a Ramona Flowers thing going on. So that's been nice. Another question: your experience as a queer non-binary person from your cultural background would be very interesting. I feel like I just answered that. You know, okay, here's something I haven't mentioned. It's difficult to find people that are like me, genuinely. It's difficult to find other people who have the same identity as me, and I don't think I ever have. I'm biracial, and I'm also non-binary, and I don't know a lot of people who are Indian biracial and also non-binary. So if you're out there, hit me up on Twitter. I would love to be friends. But yeah, it's weirdly isolating sometimes, you know, like there are some friend groups where I'm the only person of color and I'm the only queer person. But in the same regard, I've also had friend groups where because of my out loud queerness, other people have become more comfortable speaking about being queer. Several of my friends have come out after meeting me, and I don't want to say that I'm like the only influence or whatever, but I do think that being able to talk to me about it has helped them, and I have heard that from friends. I feel like in my own social space, I'm like a little bit of a pioneer of outward non-binariness, if that makes sense. Like, I was the first non-binary person that a lot of people that I know met, and I explained the concept to a lot of them and helped other people in my life get more comfortable with their identity. I do wish that I had a little bit more companionship in terms of queerness in my younger years, because I feel like I would have figured things out faster. But now I have a lot of non-binary friends, so it's okay. I'm doing good. When did you come to your current conclusions on your gender identity? Is it a spectrum? Gender is definitely a spectrum. And at this point, I don't feel like I ascribe to the spectrum at all, but I did used to say that I like moved around on it. Is it something you had to find the words to describe, or is it something that you are still in the process of discovering and exploring? Yes. I feel like my relationship to gender will always evolve in the same sense that gender and sexuality are a spectrum. I feel like they always have the ability to evolve. And also, I don't think I've mentioned this yet in the video, but I am bisexual or pansexual. I personally find the terms interchangeable. I know there's a lot of discourse. But if I say I'm bisexual, I'm non-binary. I'm obviously not leaving trans people out of the equation. I am trans. I am a non-heterosexual. How about that? Thoughts on the online community as a whole? Have things been improving or regressing? Are people more accepting, less accepting, or are they just the same? No, I mean, I think in the space that I'm in, at least, people are very accepting. I mean, you know, I'm part of the cartoon community. People are very kind to me about it. I've rarely ever had people misgender me in my own online space. I think in general, the louder that queer people are on the internet, the more that bigots yell, and that's just a facet of humanity that it's pretty much unavoidable. maybe until the hateful generation dies out. And I think with Gen Z, there's a higher trend of acceptance, but you know, that opposing viewpoint will still always be there. So I don't know, that's just like a thing that I've accepted about humanity, is like not everyone is going to think that it's okay that I am who I am. And at the end of the day, I'm not out to please anyone. I'm not out for anyone's acceptance. I know who I am. I accept myself and I love myself, and that's really all I need. But my online space has been very loving, and I really appreciate those of you who are watching and have helped me to embrace my identity and embrace my confidence much more via YouTube. If you could go back in time and tell a younger version of yourself something, what would it be? You are going to get out of this horrible situation you are in. You are going to find people who love and accept you. You are going to find people who teach you the way that you deserve to be treated. And your life is worth so much more than dying before you turn 18. You are going to be happy. You are going to create things. People are going to see them, and they're going to like them. And the dreams that you have, the goals that you have for your life, you're actually going to reach them. I'm gonna cry. That's what I would tell my younger self. I had a really, really bad childhood, and I genuinely never thought that I would be at the point where I am, where I'm this happy. If you could tell or remind your future self one thing, what would it be? Stay in tune with yourself. Keep track of your priorities. Don't get caught up in the internet. And remember how happy you are right now and how much hard work you took to get here. And there is so much love for you right now in this world, and you do not need to leave. But honestly, after the last 6 months of my life, I think I don't think I'm ever going to really go to that dark of a place again, because I'm stronger. So to my future self, I hope that you stay this course. I hope you keep making stuff. I hope you get better at creating forever. I hope that you're still in love, and I hope that you're happy. Finally, thank you so much for your content. Love your channel and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Thank you for such a lovely set of questions. And thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Someone said, I'm curious about your relationship with being LGBTQ in both music and the cartoon community. I think in terms of music, it leads me to understand songs a bit differently than other people might, or understand music conceptually a bit different than other people might, and I think it will also influence the way that I make music. I don't feel like I can go much deeper there, but I mean, yeah, being who I am definitely influences every aspect of my life. In the cartoon community, I'm just happy that I've met other queer people in this space and that we can bond together. It's great. How well do you think current media representation of LGBTQ plus people is affecting you socially? I feel like I don't necessarily need media representation in order to feel a certain way about myself. I do think, though, that if I had queer media in front of my face more often growing up, like queer cartoons, stuff like that, I probably could have come to terms with my identity and accepted my identity and understood my identity a lot sooner, rather than dealing with a lot of internalized homophobia, transphobia, and just the negative towards queer people environment that I was growing up in. So I do think it's very important. It just, as a fully realized adult, doesn't make as much of a difference for me at this point. But generally, I think the trend is positive, even if there are some missteps along the way. I think it's awesome that we are seeing more queer characters and more queer characters of color in media. But there's also the double-edged sword of that happening under capitalism, and knowing that part of the reason that is happening is to cater to a wider audience and get money from a wider audience. So it's just tainted by the society that we live in, really. But I am happy to see more queer characters in media. I mean, I don't know why anyone would be upset about that unless they're just queerphobic. I think many of the other comments have good ideas, but if you ever wanted to go with something more light and laid back, you could talk about your favorite queer or queer-coded characters in cartoons and which ones made an impression on you while finding your identity. I think you'd have an interesting perspective on this. For explicitly queer characters, Korra and Asami in The Legend of Korra, I remember watching that finale around when it came out and just being so happy to see them ending up together. That was awesome. All these questions are the same. Basically, it's like any favorite depictions of queer rep in media, talk about headcanons and why they're important. Jenny from My Life as a Teenage Robot, and specifically the episodes where she gets her exoskeleton that presents her as a human girl. And I think that kind of struck a chord with me even before I truly, when I was a kid, when I saw those episodes, and the way that she could put on a skin that was supposed to help her fit in more, and it didn't really help her fit in more in the end from my recollection. Not that I think robots should be the only non-binary representation. I've actually talked about that in a different video on Artiste TV's channel about how I think there should be more human queer rep. So I'm kind of going against my previous statements here. But specifically the exoskeleton and the way that she could put it on and take it off, and the way that she didn't feel like she fit in with her peers. A digestible way of doing like an allegory or a metaphor for queerness. And I'm pretty sure Rob Renzetti is down with that. And for a creator who's not down with that, obviously you guys know I love Danny Phantom, and he literally has two identities in his secret life. I don't think that I necessarily put the dots together when I was younger about that, but there was something about the way that he had to hide a part of himself from his family that was very relatable to me even from a young age. And my last question that I got is not feeling non-binary enough. I struggle with this since I present quite femme. Non-binary is not only androgynous presenting and is not only white and skinny and or flat-chested. Talk about that too, please. I'm white but struggle because I'm plus size with a chest. Totally. That's something that I tell people who are, questioning and queer and learning about their non-binariness all the time is you do not have to look or be a certain way in order to be non-binary. If you feel that you are, then you are. I don't necessarily feel like you have to alter anything about your appearance in order to be non-binary. You may deal with more people not understanding you or coding you the wrong way when they meet you, but if it's a person who's going to be in your life, then and they're a decent person, then you just have to give them a quick explanation. And that is something that sucks about being non-binary, is like you basically have to come out forever, other than, if you're on the internet and you can just put pronouns in your bio or whatever, but like in person, unless you're in a very left space, you pretty much have to come out forever. And I don't love that, it would be awesome if if people could just see a neon sign floating above my head that says, this person is non-binary, this person uses they, them pronouns, but that is one of the struggles of non-binary people in general. I think, it's like a curse. Like, some non-binary people are upset that they have boobs. Some non-binary people are upset that they don't. I definitely think that more representation in the media for plus-size people, for a variety of different skin colors and body types is an excellent way to generally evangelize the understanding of what a non-binary person can be. I hope that that's an okay response. I don't know, I feel like I've repeated myself a little bit in this video, honestly. But yeah, I love a comment that responded to this question, and it says, androgyny is in the eye of the beholder besides just physical. I have a larger chest than my partner, but that doesn't make her less of a woman, nor does that make me more or less of who I am. Same goes for body type. So if you don't feel non-binary enough, my advice to you is to spend some time with yourself and work on accepting yourself for who you are. And that's a very long journey, and it's taken me 8 years to get to this point where I can sit here and tell you non-binary doesn't have a look. Non-binary doesn't have to look or be a certain way. And there are people of every single variety. If you just put, qualities in a randomizer for a human, every single one of those could be non-binary, and there's no linking factors. It's just that we all feel this way about ourselves. And if you're struggling with that, just know that you have one person in your corner, and that's me. Okay, that's all for this video. I think I'm out of questions and life updates, but I cannot wait to make music and share it with you. I cannot wait to make more video essays and share them with you, and I thank you endlessly for being here and liking what I do and paying attention to me and enjoying my content. It seriously means the world to me. And I will see you soon. This summer I have a few videos planned. It is a crazy summer for me. I'm doing a lot of stuff, seeing friends, and taking care of my mental and spiritual and emotional health. But I do have some videos in the pipeline, including a very fun collaboration, and I hope that you guys are gonna like it. Okay, love you. Stay hydrated. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. Tell your friends you love them. You never know when they're gonna go. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
I am the queen of the universe. The waves tug. They engulf me and the water is warm. Can I ask you kind of a weird question?